Hello and welcome to another session of my Not Your Average Bible Studies. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks. I believe this is session 12 and today is February 9th, 2025. Thank you for joining me if you're here on a sacred Sunday. It's a snowy kind of beautiful blizzardy day where I am. And we probably got, 6 or more inches, maybe 8 inches overnight on top of snow we already had. Very picturesque and beautiful to look out my window today, right now. Very grateful for my place in space. Just that simple offering that it's pleasant to look out my window. How grateful to be for, you can call it God's creations, thinking so much into my past lately and how terms like that I would have to say with mockery or sarcasm in some kind of cynical way, in order to feel like I could even say it, because I don't come from a traditional background and I wasn't raised in a sense to be honoring and respectful of traditional orthodox expressions like that, I guess. But here I am, coming into my 38th year and starting, I'm in the end of my 37th year is what I should be saying, really. I keep kind of looking to the horizons and I really need to appreciate where I'm at now. Oh, here, dear friends, reminders of claiming what I am now, right? I'm in my 37th year, and what a better year than it is the best year to start anew, to start afresh, in a childlike way, in a way to gain mastery of the mystery, and to have fun with it and see what comes through when 3 and 7 come together. And for me, it's been a venture back into Orthodox words like that and into reading the New Testament for the first time in my life. Yeah, I've read the Old Testament sort of, and I read that in my college years, and it's assigned reading. But it was read, as I mentioned, through this lens of, what's the word? It's almost like a derogatory reference and teaching, what I felt in my university. And when I bumped into it, I was at community college in probably a state funded or some kind of funded aspect of curriculum and teaching but still, that was the first time I had even read those, the Genesis and that kind of stuff. And probably I should go back and read that, because that's the only time I ever read it. Of course, I bumped into things here and there, phrases, but I'm by no means any sort of theologian, and that's why I call this Not Your Average Bible Studies, because I don't have any references. It's my first beginner's look at this, and I'm doing it for that reason, with a fresh eye. I come to this practice in reading to gain more for myself. This is my own version of self-discovery, seeking of truth through reading yet another book from a master, or a book of Gospels of a teacher, and there's many of them, and Jesus is a great one, but there's plenty of other, figureheads, archetypes, teachers, masters. Excuse me, I should pause probably and have some water, right? Sometimes I kind of forget the ease here of audio to be able to just pause and come back. I'm so used to making video content, or, sharing things live on Telegram, or making an audio over there where it's not so easy to pause and come back for me. Here on my laptop, it's just great. But to bring it to what I'm actually here for today, and what we are here for, I've been talking for 4 minutes, so thank you for joining me and listening to preambles. If you are returning and a constant listener in my audience, I really thank you so much for bearing with me when I sort of get into these repetitive chase my tail moments before I could actually sit down and have the conversation at hand. But yeah, setting the stage evermore. Here we go. We're into chapter 7. I cleaned up with 6 in the last episode and closed it out. So we'll start afresh here with 7. I have sort of bumped into some of the scripture here on my channel in other videos when I started this. Before I started this, really, I had put up a kind of disclaimer video and mentioned how impactful reading this had been to me. And when I read chapter 6 and 7, originally the first time I ever read them, and it was in summer, I had to stop and really pause, and it created a ripple effect of work in my own life, of introspective ripples inwards to these sort of checks and balances with myself about my wisdom, spirituality, about what I think I know, about who I think I am, about how that relates to how I would be seen by the great observer, by the creator, by, as Jesus calls, the Father. And even, becoming more comfortable or more exposed and desensitizing that kind of language for myself, and embracing even, or working towards it, is that in itself creates great work for me. So I don't take reading this book lightly, and I'm saying this is my first reading here. It's not my fresh reading. I have read a bit ahead, and I sit with these things, and that's why I come back and make these studies afterwards, sort of out loud. But I haven't done too much. I'm not a seasoned reader. I'm not choosing scriptures because I know the overall whole, and I know what impact this has to other versions of the story, and that I'm not even that familiar with Jesus's entire timeline completely. I've never gone through all of the points in chronology in a sitting, actually, come to think about it. I couldn't even sit through that Passion of the Christ movie. It was way too gory, and not gory, but too emotional, really. It was the emotional gore of it that I can't deal with, because when it comes to, the blood and that kind of stuff, it doesn't really gross me out. I'm not affected by anatomy. I worked in a lab for 10 years, so those kind of things don't really bother me. But the emotional violence, the abuse, the entirety of all of that in combination with the visuals and into my field in reality, too much for me. Same thing with scary movies and all that kind of stuff. Even before I understood kind of why, and the fact that it's, what it is, I just knew I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy that kind of thing. And I know other people sometimes do, or they enjoyed to be scared or whatever, but to me, I never got it. And I just didn't want to. Now again, I'm off on a tangent. Let's get to reading the scriptures that we're here to actually listen to. Right? I'm going to read a little through, and then possibly come back with comments, a bit like I did in the last episode. It's a bit of shifting gears from what I've started out with doing a single scripture line, talking about it, moving on. But as I did with the sort of paragraph or chunk of information that I read previously in last episodes that way, I'm going to try it out here again and see how it goes. So yeah. Starting out in 7 now. Judge not, that ye be judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considereth not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thy eye, and behold, a beam is in thy own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. when I first read that, that's where I stopped to myself and said, wow, that is epic. That is some really righteous, impactful, catastrophic advice for all. And it really is so humbling, and it really should be taken as that. And if every single, even a master, even someone like Jesus who can create a miracle, if he is to be who he's, if it was as to be said as that was, right? To know that that type of self-introspective work is needed, is there, is relevant, should be reflected on, should be assessed first and foremost, that is just eternal work, never ending. And I really see it as such a truth of a positively functioning system. And system jargon, when I talk about it, to bring it back to, it's just like, it's such a master of energetics and of truth, of good functioning, of overall wellness, of being good and working well, creating strong circuitry, with a good charge, momentum, and polarity, and that overall benefit is for the whole anyways. That is the best benefits and creates the most best work, and actually, yes, can benefit all around you afterwards, like momentous wisdom in there. I love reading that. And let's go on now. I'll pick it up with verse 6 here. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, or turn and rend you. That in itself, this is almost a point of debate for me, and is such one of those I wish I could pop in here and ask you a question kind of moment for me. It's like, excuse me, can I pull up the curtain here? I have contradictory questions for you, sir, to call others hypocrites in certain ways, but I'm seeing, a bit of a mote in your eye here, a wrinkle in your shirt. Because how can we how do we create a hierarchy as to saying, who and what in this metaphor are you calling dogs and swine? What can we get clarification in translations here? Can we have deeper teachings on how we create definition in that area? What exactly does that mean? Clearly, I don't think that it's meant to be actual, verbatim, literal teaching about the animals of dogs and about a farm animal of the pig. It is in itself, because it makes very great, it says in plain text, kind of in a visual sense of what's to be had here is, give not that which is holy unto dogs, but that which you consider, that you don't want ruined, that which you consider to be pure and sacred, clean, don't give it to wild, fun-loving animals like dogs represent, and also they also represent this other phase of consciousness as to they don't really know or understand what value and worth to keep something clean, unharmed is. Not to wrinkle it. It's much like a toddler kind of aspect here is what I have a play on to the distinction of reference of dogs here. It's like, if you have something that you don't want disrupted and destroyed, you don't give it to them. Yeah, we want to try to teach them about it. Yeah, we want them to try to learn to honor it. But at the end of the day, the capacity for relaying those kinds of things in the exact manner that you hope to. It's unreal expectations. Doesn't take into account the truth and reality of isness, of what is. And the fact that there is this kind of playscape. There is a gradient at work. And then again, he says, neither cast ye pearls before swine. And the same thing. Pearls of wisdom here, of course, is probably the most best reference as to what the mention of that is. And pearls are something that have been worked on for a long time, you know. I love that symbology reference of the oyster and working on a pearl, chewing on a subject for a long time for yourself. Sometimes I use the stone in the blade reference, or, you know, sandpaper, or grading away at a sculpture, you know, that back and forth friction motion over time and repetition. It's something that takes time to do. That's where wisdom comes through. Information transforms into knowledge deeper, and knowledge has its points and gradients and layers to it, but then it transforms into something much deeper, which is wisdom underneath. And pearls, I believe, you know, could be an aspect or reflection of that kind of thing. Dedication to that. Mastery of sorts. And then to like throw them before the swine, pigs, of course, you know, look at what a pig lives in. Tramples around in its own feces and nonsense and mud and, you know. But again, the great question is like, what does that tell us at the end of the day about humankind, about humanity, about different versions of life, of different expressions of consciousness, conscious awareness, ascension through it, our mind, body, physical vessel being different and of a different physical version and completely different expression than the other forms of life around us, and for many ways, you know. And then again, so what's it mean about the hierarchy of man and humanity? This is like one of those things I wish, same thing with the heathens, the Gentiles, these terms and phrases of reference. I would love to be able to actually be in the now, in the timeline of present time, to be able to gain better context for what's being expressed here. But of course, we're playing a game of telephone roundabout with whispers put in on purpose, and you know, translation skipped over or whatever on purpose. So how couldn't we even? They can't hide the truth at the end of the day. So this is why we can just sort of mull it over and speak on it, and we'll come around to it in a way. But you know, to leave that verse as it is, it sticks out as it is anyways, because we get into the next parts, and it seems to be sort of an outlier phrase. This is, some of these phrases come through, and I think I mentioned this in the last time, where it's like jostled around or a bit disconnected, and so it's, and of course it's like, it's not verbatim, it's not a captured moment in time. It wasn't somebody's not right aside him like writing down his words, you know, with a pocket scribe or whatever. But sometimes this traditional thing, this storyline, so many hundreds of years later, thousands, whatever, it gets presented to people like that. People act like it is. People really, you know, pretend it is. And so that's why I kind of also talk about breaking out of that. Anyways, starting off with 7, chapter 7, verse 7. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. I really love that phrase. There's a great, I think it might be in the vow, from the movie The Secret, or from someone who made that movie The Secret. Sometimes they call it The Millionaire's Vow, but I really like just to call it The Vow. I'll try to find it and share a link of it, but it plays off of this. It embodies this as a mantra, and it's beautiful. I forget who's the exact author of it now, but yeah, I'll share it afterwards. What powerful phrases. And for myself, I speak in from confirmation, in a place of solid faith, as to say that yes, 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 3 times over to each one, every time. It has not failed me yet. And it's so funny that, to come around to it the way that I have. And on to 9. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father, which is in heaven, give good gifts to him that ask? I love that, Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. I love that. It's, it's the roundabouts, the golden laws around treat people how you would like to be treated. That, is the end all be all, the first instruction, and everything will sort itself out from there if you live your life from that perspective, with that edge of discernment all the time. I think that's foundational teaching, teach to my own sons, but and so many teachers throughout time have really brought up that. It's been displayed in many different teachings, But again, here, it's sort of the phrase, and to bring into, no, it's not just about being kind to those who like you, and it's not just about being nice to your own children, It's deeper than that. Just like the previous verses about it's easy to love people who like you already or love you. But how hard is it to love someone who disagrees with you, or your enemy, or the opposing force against you? We get a test and a teaching of it when we have children, or those near us, a loved one, a partner who disagrees with us. How do we choose to respond and react? How can we actually work through and incorporate, troubleshoot together, find harmonious solutions, comfortable ways through that honor both of us, or all included? Especially when you have multiple children, it becomes a much more tangible lesson to, but to extend that to others, to extend that to strangers, to extend that to people that you don't even like is so meaningful, and is really, I believe, the point and foundation work of positive systems and teachings, because, to treat all those how we want to be treated. Don't you want the kindness and caring of patience and forgiveness, and the space and privacy to take your time, the sovereign right to your own expressions, and to make your mistakes and learn from them in your own ways? I think you do. I know I do. And so, that speaks volumes to me through that teaching. And again, is a difficult practice in and of itself. My goodness, I trip over my own tongue this morning. And that's why I believe here what he's saying in verse 13. Enter ye at the strait gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. and that reminds me, when I first read that, I said, wow, how obvious of a teaching for fishing, you know? And I think at the start it says, oh, he found fishermen netting and fish. They left their father from fishing and came with him. And, this to catch fish or to lead them into a trap, the way that it starts is very, very wide, and then it comes into the smaller area because they can't swim backwards. And then once they've realized the enclosure's smaller, they have no space to even try to turn around. And when there's lots of them, it definitely can't happen. So, all you can do is push through the smaller opening that's ahead. But the thing is that those wide openings at the start, it feels free. Everybody's there, and it's like you don't realize that you're in the strait until you start bumping into everybody around you, and then it's too late. The freedom's already disappeared, and there's no room to back up, because those narrow gates that are free for you to flow through, the skinny way that you're meant to go, the current is you're meant to find that small doorway on your own. It's like a singular opening that you fit through. It's not available to fit Tweedledee and Tweedledum through. It's not a double door even. It's just a singular way through that you alone go, or you alone find, and you have to be brave enough as to when you do find that one opening or doorway off the main hallway where everyone is, that you actually go walk through it. That you leave the pack in the hallway at lunch break, something curiously calls to you and you go through that door. It's not something that a bunch of your friends find with you and you all go through together, It's a singular thing, meant to be that way. And once you make it through, you're on your way. But few are there. And it's meant to be that way, honestly. But also, it's a very difficult path. And, of course, Jesus speaks it in a wonderful parable that is fit for who he's speaking to, and especially around Mediterranean culture. It's very much a seafarer's lifestyle. And yet it's a wonderful metaphor for us today, too. We're coming up to about half an hour. I think I might just leave it. Well, I'm going to leave a cliffhanger, and then we'll pick it back up with where we're leaving off, because it's a whole new topic, but it's so relevant to today's world, much like the cancellation kind of things that he talked about before, about being jailed for speaking your truth, or being canceled, or being kicked out of, being crucified and basically cast out or exiled for speaking truth. It's very relevant to today's world. And here, so is verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. I'll just leave the beginning of 16, as well, and stop there, and just say that speaking systems again, speaking that about the plain and simple metaphysical truth that you cannot serve two masters, you cannot flow in two directions at once, you cannot be positive and negative at the same time, right? This is super relevant to what we're kind of facing today in this controlled opposition kind of sideshow, circus, malignant mutation that's coming into alt media space, into spiritual quote-unquote movements and New Age and all that kind of realm of the conscious alt movements. It's been building for a few years, the architecture and structure, so that it looks to be quite organic and to fool the eye at first, It's optical illusions we need to be very aware of, that these are tests of truth which come from the inside out. We can't believe them from the outside in. And it's very important that we do the work so that we can get the beams out of our own eyes and see clearly through our own selves, operating outwards from a place of truth first, especially in these times, because we are in very delusional times. And if you're not, or we're operating correctly here, you're going to be getting yourself into a lot of trouble with the puppet shows at hand. Because yes, they for sure will be sheep in wolf's clothing. But again, we will know them by their fruits. You know them by their actions. Actions speak louder than words. And what speaks the loudest of all is the first and foremost language. That's body language, etheric frequencies, that inner intuition, your gut, whatever your heart, whatever kind of knowing that you would like to respond to, and find a good conductivity there for you to hone in on a truth and to say, yes, that's me, that's my inner calling, that's the word I use. That synchronicity, make it for you, make it the personal truth, and then operate from there. And if it clashes against that, then be sure to be questioning and weary of it. Poke at it, ask it questions, and if it's responsive and gives you answers, then accept them for the answers that are given. Don't try to change them or fake them, or not react to them the way that you would. Respond to them the way accordingly that needs to be responded to in order to find a harmonious solution. And if no response is given, or it's something of that sort, then that is a response. And you should take that accordingly as well. Not make excuses, not fill in the blank for them, or make your own intentions or expectations there and plaster them over. No, express to them that their silence is a response and that it's a negation, that the lack of response is a lack of consent to operating any further with that person, and then see what their response becomes. If you give the shadow, if you give the negative, or you give a problem an out, and they scramble for the door, let them go. Don't call them back and don't follow them. If you're operating from a place of truth, if you really want to find true harmonious solutions, not coming from a pillared place, wanting your way or the highway. If you're expressing yourself honestly from a place of unconditional acceptance and love, your sovereign right, and they're affronted by that, then so be it. Is the places that we need to be at, and is what the teachings I feel are here. I've gotten a bit off on my own teachings now at the end, and I've gone past about a half an hour. But thank you so much for listening here as I make my way through these teachings. And as always, appreciate your audience. If you'd like to find me in the meantime, you can always find me on Telegram or directly on my website, amariespeaks.com. And maybe I'll catch you next Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful Sunday. Take time for yourself. And I will see you next time.